Good afternoon, everybody. It's Terry Houston, Global Vice President, HR Strategies Consulting. Welcome to today's webcast on the Spotlight series, focusing on SAP's SuccessFactors, succession planning, and career development. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're going to spend a little bit of time just going over the markets, what's happening, why succession planning is so important to our organizations. And then we're going to go in and look at the product itself, make sure everybody's taking advantage of all the features and functionality that are available, and answering any questions people might have in regards to succession planning and career development inside the solution. So hopefully everybody's seeing my screen. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. You can make them private to me or to the entire group. So as I said, today's focus is on SAP SuccessFactors, succession and development. And some of the reasons why this is so important comes some statistics from a Gallup survey, which basically says that employee experience turns employees into ambassadors for your culture, brand, customers, and impacting business value. So by having a great employee experience, by using items like career development, you can improve productivity by 17% per employee. More importantly, probably is the fact for your CEO and CFO is that you can produce 3 times more revenue per employee when our employees are engaged inside of our organizations and are driving our culture and our brand internally and externally. And lastly, of course, is the reduction of turnover from a company average perspective. We all know the cost of turnover is really high in organizations. At a minimum, most people put it, somewhere at 30% the cost of the salary. Some people put it as high as 300% the cost of the salary to replace individuals inside the organization. So take your your retention number, whatever that is, let's say it's 10%, take the percentage of your average salary and mark that up by the number of employees you have that equate to that 10%, and you'll find out how big of a saving this could be by implementing best practices in these solutions. These are some other stats that just help us back why adopting technology is so important, and working with millennials and the disruption or the advantage it has in our organization. So we know that we're having a higher turnover rate based on just the number of millennials we have in our organization. This statistic shows it's at 2.8 years for a millennial. I've seen statistics even lower, but it is smoothing out. We also see that 2 million employees quit every month citing negative workplace experiences. And workplace experience isn't just, bad managers, sexual harassment, the one-offs that we have and we desperately want to avoid for risk and lawsuit reasons. But it's also just about providing them the type of work environments, whether that's telecommuting, which most of us are doing now. It's about the type of computer they have. It's the type of feedback they get. It's the type of technology you use inside your organizations. And today's trend is around how you're developing, obviously, your employees as well inside your organization. And statistics have shown out there that development is almost as close now to pay for people when they're looking to take on a new job. They feel that how well the company will invest in developing them is almost as equally in importance to them as pay is. So it's a huge factor now, and we need to really focus on both developing and creating that experience for them. 70% of millennials said they would quit due to poor technology experiences. So that just backs further what we have said there in here. So, are you equipped to respond? What we're finding is, only 9% believe they're ready to really address this issue inside their organizations. The issue being, providing that ultimate experience for employees, where 84% of leaders say that employee experience is a top priority. So we need to start, putting our money in our technology and walking the talk and delivering these types of experiences to help retain, engage, and develop our employees. And it's really, beyond giving them, the best possible technology so that they can have the slickest systems and access to technology, it's also about listening, understanding, and acting on what our employees are looking for in a culture, in an environment. And often, we can find a lot of this data and information out using great tools like SAP's recent acquisition of Qualtrics to do these types of employee engagement surveys so that we can get experience data and combine it with the operational data, so X on the left and O on the right, to really drive and understand how the experience is going. I'm happy to provide people with more details and information on Qualtrics should they want any. So we've seen a shift. We used to call it human capital management out on the marketplace. This was the traditional practice where we were implementing technology. Really, it was the guise of automating a lot of old processes and helping HR reduce the time and effort it took them. We'd layer in some employee and manager self-services to make it feel like we were providing value to employees and managers as well. And there's been a fundamental shift to really change that now. So SuccessFactors has rebranded themselves as what we call human experience management software. So it's about providing that experience for every second of the day for every employee, any interaction they have to do with our company. It's all about the experience specifically. So developing talent has definitely become more challenging, and there's a couple of slides coming up with some of the statistics that I found pretty fundamentally, shaking the core of how we think of society and the investment we put into training and development. So first and foremost, they're going to back the fact that changing skills are requirements. So the skills inside our organizations are changing rapidly year over year as technology changes and progresses. And then people are getting wiser and smarter to using these types of technology. Next is, we're developing new ways of working. Nobody helped us develop that better probably than COVID did itself. So what are we doing to support those new ways of telecommuting and working? We're also seeing that there's a real increase in the expectations that employees have. So it's been coming more and more year over year that employees are expecting more and more out of their employers to be delivered to them to help them succeed in their present job and their future jobs, which relates directly to succession planning and career development. So are we aligning ourselves in our organization to enable our employees to obtain those expectations? Are we even understanding what those expectations are, going back to that, whole listening, understanding? Are we asking the right questions? Are we having the proper conversations with our employees? Which again leads into the whole reason SuccessFactors is a suite of products and services. And when I think about that section specifically, it reminds me a lot of the continuous performance management component of SuccessFactors, where you can have these one-on-one meetings specific to the employee and their present role and where they want to go and where they want to develop, and have that listening conversation and seeing their activities and their achievements and giving them feedback, because millennials really need that feedback. And having that data and information flow through to succession and development from performance management. The last segment here is integrating development with work. So it's always a battle. We're always trying to do less, more with less employees these days. So where do we find the time to build in development and still get all the work that we need to get accomplished? Where does HR have the time to even focus on development, especially in small to mid-sized businesses where they may not have a dedicated training department or team? This becomes even more of an obstacle for organizations. So what we want to do, utilizing the technology, is to lift the ownership off of development and place it on the employee and allow them to have the experience that they want to have around development inside the organizations. We're going to show how we can do that inside the solution coming up. And that will help, of course, map to the employee expectations, because they set their own expectations and they have more control over their overall development inside the organizations as well. So I said, you know, these next two slides are similar. They have similar views, slightly different statistic. So we talked about expectations changing. So employees need and want more. But what's fundamental here in this slide is the skills they have now won't be the skills they need in 3 years. So, you know, as much as we're investing in them now, if we're not continuing to invest and develop in them, if we're not keeping up to date on the trends ourselves and offering the learning that we need to retool our organizations to be successful, you know, we're going to have stagnant skill sets in our organizations. Okay, and only 34% say their company is able to give employees the training they need, and that's probably specifically the training they need today in the role that they have for the skills that they need today, let alone thinking about this large shift. And this was, you know, what I call the skills churn. So this is just a follow-up on that with another quote here, where Stephanie Casriel, CEO of Upwork and a member of the World Economic Forum Council, says, you know, it puts the half-life of a learned skill at about 5 years, meaning 5 years from now, the current skill set your workforce will be worth about half as much as it is today. So very much aligned to the last statistic that we had inside the solution. So hopefully I've set expectations today of how important employee experience is, skills and development are, and as well, you know, the ability for employees to be able to control that inside our organizations. So what we want to do now is go in to the SuccessFactor Suite and take a look at some of these features and apply them back to what we've learned here as well. Okay. All right. So this should look very familiar to most of you out there, hopefully. Some or all of you have at least some form of SuccessFactors up and running here in the solution. So let's jump in and start at succession planning. So when I think of succession planning specifically, I think of succession planning in two formats. And the one we're going to show right now is what I call the top-down approach to succession planning. It's where we take our critical roles, we find successors, we make sure we have people aligned. So if we lose important and key role people inside of our organizations, we have backfill for those quickly and easily inside of our organizations. This is the most common use for SAP SuccessFactors, and it is being driven a lot in organizations based on boards. So your board, if you have a board or if you're starting to get a board or thinking of IPOing, they're the ones that are dictating that we're spending as organizations time and effort in doing succession planning for that cost of replacing successors. But more importantly, if you lose a key role and the time to productivity, even though we have a great onboarding solution that reduces that, is great. So having a missing person inside the organization for days, let alone weeks or months, can be really detrimental to the ability for organizations to reach their financial and business goals inside of organizations. So when we look at succession, we can pick roles and we can mark them as critical. So we do this in the position management, which I'm sure you're familiar with. But if anybody doesn't know how to do that, I'd be happy to go back to position management and show you how to mark your roles as critical inside the organization. We know that real estate is always short in SuccessFactors. You shouldn't be new to this, but this is areas where we use icons to help us understand the risk of loss, impact of loss, you know, why people may be leaving, whether they're retiring, being promoted, being fired inside the organization. So we can use these icons to help us out effectively in here as well. We can change this whole org chart. Right now I have everybody visible, but if I wanted to highlight only key positions, it would remove all the other positions except our key positions, so I could look at that on this specific chart, right? And then you can see here the maximum card size, and I could add additional successors should I want to here as well. We have insights turned on as well, which I'm hoping you're all using. So this is the ability to have the widgets that are available specific to succession right here and visible here, so I don't have to go back to the home page to find that data and information. So if I'm looking at Jeff Hill and I look at his actual position here inside the organization, I can see, as I said, it's been marked as being a critical role. I can see who the successors are and their readiness. I could come right here and I could add a successor. And what this does is it does a search based on the skills and criteria and competencies that we have associated with Jeff's position from a position job profile perspective. It can go in and find additional successors for him, and I can add these. If you're using our recruiting tool and product, you can link to external candidates here. So this is where we can use our candidate database in recruiting to actually help with our succession planning. You can also, right again from the job profile, launch a requisition and make it a private requisition where you're managing candidates for these types of roles as well. So those are other great ways to be able to manage candidates that may not exist inside of our organization. And next, of course, is our overall talent, top talent pool. So we can also create pools, and we're going to talk about pools in more depth coming up. But we could also look at just who our top talent is, who might be ready, and be able to make decisions by looking at these individuals as to whether they may be potential successors or not for us. And you can see that I could actually nominate them for positions here as well. Okay, so this is the org chart where we can see it. What people often like to see is what we call the lineage chart. And this is where we can see the trickle down or the ripple effect of what happened if we made a hire. So what happens if we promoted Jada or James to Jeff Hill's position? What's the repercussion down? And this, of course, is demo environment, so I don't have as much depth as you might have in your organizations, but this could trickle way down into the organization. So I can just see if I promoted Gilbert to this position, you know, can I then, do I have anybody that can replace Gilbert? And I don't. But I do have people to replace Jada and James Klein at this particular time as well. Okay. So we talked about other ways to find talent is to use our talent search capability. So this again allows us to go in and dissect people in our organization and save searches that are specific for us. So we can start to search on any criteria that we want to inside the system. We can include talent pools, education, whether they're willing to move geographically, leadership experience, any languages they have. Obviously, we probably want to bring in specific skills and competencies as well. So we could pick the skills and competencies that we might want to have as well as part of that here. You can select those. Specifically, I can select and drill down further and even choose ratings, levels that people have in here, and I can execute searches. And when the search comes up, we can see how many people we have. And if it's too many people still, we can slice and dice this by departments or divisions or locations if we want to, or we could go in and add additional criteria so that we can reduce the potential number of successors here as well. And if we want to, we can save this search, or another way to add criteria is to modify that specific search for us as well. Okay. When we're in succession planning and we're doing talent reviews, we often want to look at potential successors based on the how versus what, as well as the performance versus potential matrix. So again, I could go into my organization and see how people are performing versus their potential. And I can compare people side by side inside the organization so that I can see if there's somebody here that I would like to move or to nominate to be potential successors inside the system as well. And this is also when we're using these things for our overall talent reviews. And we can build these in to our presentations if we have to walk into meetings and want to do this type of annual talent reviews where we're looking at people and considering people. You can see based on our roles and responsibilities, we can also filter data and information. So I'm just looking at Jeff Hill and lower from a team perspective, but someone in HR obviously could go much higher up. So when I think of talent reviews is often when I go into the presentations tool, and that's the ability for me to walk into an annual talent review meeting with the data and information that I want to by creating a combination of PowerPoint slides, which you can see here are the color-coded slides. And here's anywhere I'm building in data from the system. So if I look at this presentation for my yearly talent review, I can see I have PowerPoint slides. Here's my team. You can see this is all live, drill downable, even brings in matrix reporting structure. And then I can bring in their actual objectives. And of course, this is all real live and drill downable. I can filter this data and information inside and see all the information I need and export this data, just like we would be doing if we open those specific reports. Again, bringing in those 9 boxes that we need. Here I'm bringing in those actual high potentials as well inside the organization. And I'm looking at overall compensation data and statistics and how they've come up in the system. And our objectives versus competencies, our gender data and information, which might be important for us for diversity reasons. Then we're coming up with action plans that are here. So the idea is that once you build these reports once, you can walk into your meeting and use them at any point in time that you want to. So in going back to succession planning, we've been showing you top-down succession planning where it's kind of a one-to-one relationship, where we're looking at the individual and we're actually applying a specific successor to them. But we can do this in other ways as well. We can do this based on positions, and we can use talent pools. So if I want to just look at anybody that wants to be in executive management and I want to maintain a pool of these individuals, I can see and maintain these individuals here as well. You know, so I can then move and nominate these individuals to be successors for any type of executive management role as well. Okay. Inside the system. So now let's go in and look at development and look at it more from what I call bottom up, which is really around the employee experience. So all of this that we were just showing you around succession planning is all stuff that we do for our organization to backfill on critical roles. What we want to talk about now is the individual employees ability to create their own experience, put themselves on their own development plans, and take a lot more control over their careers. And this is a wonderful thing because it actually reduces time and effort that we have to take inside our organizations to provide these types of services and this type of coaching to our employees, or hope that our managers are doing this. And of course, we want our managers to be involved in this. And that's why also I still recommend that you use that continuous performance management in those one-on-one meetings to be able to do that. But right now I'm in Jeff's career worksheet, and Jeff could have done a number of things. One is he could view suggested roles, which does a search using some forms of AI and just looks for skills and competencies. And there's a lot of new AI coming out. I hope in the next release that will build dynamic career paths for you inside your organization. And I could come in here and I can even select, again, based on skills and competencies that are important to me, roles and jobs that I may be interested in here specifically. But in Jeff's case, he's already aligned himself, and he's decided that he wants to be in that executive management bucket that we've talked about. And so what that does is it compares the skills and competencies that he has and how he's performing to what the requirements are for that, to him to be in executive management. So you can see here, he's only a 3 and he needs to be in 4.5. So what he's actually done is created himself a couple of developmental goals, or maybe somebody in the organization has created those for him inside the organization. I can also see there's 2 target roles that share this competency. So there's other target roles that come into play here. And I'll show you too in another development area where we could link learning to here, because really what we want to do is link learning so they could search for learning specific to the competency thinking globally and take it and improve these skill sets automatically as well. The other of the 6 criteria he's either met or overachieved those. So he's in good stead for that. So what he actually has done, based on him being so close to do this, is he launched a role readiness assessment. And what this is a assessment that goes to his manager or managers, it's workflows that you determine of, and asks them to tell him how ready they feel he is for this new role and responsibility. Again, this is putting all the ownership up to this point in time on the individual to be able to come in here, choose what job he wants to have inside the organization, create his own development plans, sign up for his own learning so that he can get there inside the organization. The other reason that these types of career paths are critical inside of organization, and this is, as I said, the old school career path that is built here, that's going to be dynamically built coming up in the next releases, is people need to know what it takes to be, to get from a junior or something to a senior of something. And if we have clear skills, competencies, expectations around those, when people get overlooked for a promotion, they're less likely to be disgruntled about it because they can see clearly the skills and competencies they have, where they might be lacking and where another employee may actually be in a better position to take on that role. It also helps us and make better promotion goals and ideas. And because we should be looking to make sure they have those skills and criteria when we're doing those promotions. And we want to take, of course, all these skills and criteria that it takes and put them into our recruiting. So as we start to evaluate who our top performers are, and we use those as the guide for, putting in skills and competencies that are desirable to be in this position by somebody that's overachieving in these roles. Again, as I said, we want to take that knowledge we've gained and circle it back throughout the system and bring that into recruiting and onboarding and assign that type of learning to people so that they can garner those skills and competencies as quickly as possible so they can also be top performers inside of our organization. Okay, so let's look at the development side of this. So again, development plans can be set for employees by managers, by HR, because they're a high potential like they have here, or they can have their own career development objectives that are in place here. So you can see in this particular case, again, we're tying in that continuous performance management so we can see all the activities and achievements we're doing and how they're helping us achieve these goals, because this is his career development plan to get to be an executive manager. And we can see there and see what activities that we're taking to be able to do that inside the organization. And of course, again, based on roles and responsibilities, I can edit the goals. I can do an alignment spotlight, see how I'm doing, you know, add this to my Outlook and so on inside the organization. Going back to the high potential development plan, this is one I've been put on because I'm in that high potential talent pool. And again, you can see this is an example of where we have, and you can, in any development plan, add learning specifically here. So learning can come in and based on critical experiences, you can search. And if you've linked your learning to skills and competencies, it will come up with the learning activities they can take specific to these skills and competencies to improve their overall performance in these goals as well here inside the solution. So as you can see, we can have as many developmental plans as we want to, up to your organization. Some organizations allow employees to add these and make them private. So if I want to create a new development goal, and I don't want anybody to know about it, I can make a private goal. The same thing we can do, sometimes we want employees to know their successors for roles and positions, and sometimes we don't. So when we're configuring the system, we could be creating succession plans the same way. We could be putting Jeff Hill on a succession plan to be the CEO, and he may not even know it, because we don't, you know, don't want to overwhelm him, worry him, or maybe it's too far out, but we have you know, an eye for that inside the solution. So we definitely have the capabilities to do that here as well. So we can create development plans that are private for us also here inside the system. One of the newish features inside of SuccessFactors is also the capability now to do mentoring. Inside our demo environment, it's got the very basic type of mentoring program in place, but you can configure actual really complex mentoring programs as well inside of SuccessFactors. So here we're giving, it's kind of an open type of enrollment, you know, so you can decide to be a mentee, you know, and sign up to be actually mentored inside the program. If we want to join, we can come in here and we can say, you know, as Jeff, what he wants to do is, you know, look at leadership, maybe business turnaround. We know he wants to be in executive management, so we can put executive office, and we can put specific goals that we want to achieve based on that relationship. And then what the system will do is they can search for a specific mentor if they know one, but here it matches what we've chosen here with potential people inside the organization. And then we can pick these people based on what levels of match they are inside the organization, or again, search for specific mentors. And the reverse side, because Jeff has signed up to be a mentor, we can go in and look at his mentoring relationships here and see what he has in place. So we can see his status is on, he's agreed to be a mentor. These are the preferences. So he's done a similar thing when he registered to be a mentor. He chose the same types of drop downs. I guess I can show you that by editing it. So he chose where he felt he was capable of mentoring. Inside here, he said how many mentors he's willing to have here inside the system. And you can see right now, he has just one mentee, which is Faith Hill. I can end my relationship with Faith Hill. And right now you can see I have her just job shadowing me, but I could come in at any point in time and create other types of activities for Faith that I want her to do to help her achieve her goal, and as to what she's chosen here, as to improve which types of skills and experiences inside the actual organization. Okay. Because I talked a little bit about continuous performance management, I'm just going to remind you guys of that before I jump back into the presentation and review that specifically for you. But that's just a reminder that this is where we want to, as Jeff Hill and my employees on the left, create activities, achievements, and we can tie these, you know, into specific goals, which are feeding the rest of the application, both performance goals as well as developmental goals, so that our managers can see how we're performing and what we're doing. And this is a great way also to request feedback and view feedback. And again, based on roles and permissions, we can even give feedback here. And then if I'm doing this for my actual employees, and we're looking at what they're accomplishing, you know, I can add activities for them, and I can add topics that I want to talk to them about, and they've obviously added topics they want me to talk about. So if we're trying to create this employee experience, listening here is really important. So, you know, this is pre-pandemic, but, you know, I wanted to start telecommuting 3 days a week, and I need to get a new mobile phone. And obviously, if I'm going to be working from home, I want to talk to you about getting remote internet inside the system. So these are the listening activities that I was speaking about, that if you haven't turned on, you should. It feeds both development and performance and goal management. But more importantly, we can capture meetings. We can notify managers if they're not meeting regularly, to make these types of meetings happen, to give the feedback and experience that employees are looking for inside their organization. Okay, so let me just go back here, launch this page here. So, you know, how succession and development is unique. So it's comprehensive, right? It makes succession and development part of the entire talent management process. It can put an employee first experience. Again, you know, putting the employee at the center, allowing and enabling them. Although this can be driven by managers and HR, you know, inside the organizations as well. It's not solely the employee's responsibility to develop our talent, but they like having that capability to empower themselves to do it. But if we're not making sure that people are developing the skills we need, because they're so rapidly changing, as we pointed out in today's presentation, it's really important that we have a role in that and make sure that we're bringing learning in and assigning those types of skills and identifying those for people to start to get educated and experienced in. We talked about the empowering. We talked about the AI, you know, of finding the right roles and jobs, and with a lot more coming in the next release of SuccessFactors, which I'm super excited about, as anybody out there who developed career pathing by hand would be, if it could be developed automatically, that would be a huge, huge time saver. The next is, of course, the continuous development. I mean, we really need to create that. And I believe they've also got it roadmapped for when I went into continuous performance management to add training actually into there, and development more so into there. And I think that's important. You know, it says here about it's built for as an extensible solution. I think the right thing here maybe actually should have been about the integratedness of succession planning and career development with the rest of the suite. So we just tied it to performance, we tied it, you know, to goals, we've tied it to learning, we've tied it to recruitment. So everything is so connected, and that's why it's so important, you know, to continue to buy and leverage modules of SuccessFactors versus going out and buying one-off product suites and solutions. So some customers have received some pretty good return on investments for implementing succession planning, 90% reduction in the time it takes to do succession planning, 67 hours saved each year doing the calibration using the talent cards. here, 32% more likely to reach developmental goals, you know, when they're mentored, is what the statistics showed for them, and saved due to reduced turnover of high potential employees. You know, they say thousands of dollars here, but more likely hundreds of thousands of dollars that they've saved here specifically inside the system. So I hope you found the information and data that we shared today with you helpful. If you have Succession up and running and you need any help or have any specific questions, here's my contact details and information. We're happy to get on a call with you with a certified configuration consultant who would do a health check on succession planning or any other module that you have or modules that you have to make sure that you're getting the most out of your system and help you identify any changes or tweaks that you might want to do yourself, or you may need our help or another partner's help with making that type of configuration inside your solution suite. So again, thanks for spending time with us today. We know time's of value to you. We hope you found today's session a benefit. And if there's anything we can do at HR Strategies to help you get more out of your solution, we welcome the opportunity to help you. Have a great day, everybody. I hope to hear from people soon. Bye now.